Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau, video producer and a Christian. Today I'm taking a look at the ongoing and old problem of congestion and transportation in our cities and what's been done about it. Like and comment on my video and subscribe to my channel to keep the channel going. Yes, here's the headline. Can San Diego buck the national trend of falling use of transit? Now, many of people around San Diego, including myself, watch buses go by. There's a bus route goes by my house with nobody on the bus or trolleys. Down here, maybe a little more full because they run down to the border and a lot of people going back and forth. But it's an issue because I was counting up their graph here. There's 36 cities on there in metropolitan U.S., if you will, and only 3 of those 36 cities have had ridership that's going up on mass transit, and all the rest are going down, with Sacramento with a 35% drop, and that's in the capital city of California. So you may have heard about our boondoggle high-speed rail here in California. Billions and billions spent on a non-existing high-speed rail track. And from what I understand, it's a conventional rail track now. Out in the more Central Valley area, which is nothing mostly but farms and rural communities, which would haul a very small amount of people. But anyway, that's a whole other political mess and discussion. But anyway, elected officials asked San Diegans to approve not 1, but 2 tax proposals for involving billions of dollars for bus and rail, and building a Grand Central Station. Now I could see it working. They just built a new one in North County that goes up to La Jolla. Without getting something about that, I don't know how many people are going to ride the trolley in La Jolla. But anyway, shouldn't have been built to the airport, but that's my opinion. But the task comes at a time when around the country, from Atlanta to Houston, Los Angeles, ridership has been declining. But that's a big part of the American culture. Our Constitution is about individual liberty, and the car gave us that liberty. Now, yes, in years gone by, they had horses and buggies and all that, but that it took a lot. You had to keep the horse alive and so forth. The car, of course, you have to keep it alive, but otherwise it just sits in your driveway or your garage. Put some gas in it, and away you go. I mean, what liberty? You can go as far as you want or short as you want, when you want, pick up what you want. I mean, what a liberty that is to have a car to be able to get around. And that's a big part of our life. That's our culture. So in San Diego, when they built urban areas that spread out from the city, they also built these large highways for that reason. They planned ahead in San Diego pretty well. Now, in the last few years, some politicians using global climate change to force people out of their cars into the transit system, they started taking lanes off of the freeways and street lanes off to the streets and towns. Now, how did they do that? Well, in some areas they would actually put like a bus depot in the middle of the freeway with a stairway down from a bridge, and then they create a lane that's only for buses. Well, many of us have driven by these bus-only lanes with no buses in them. Downtown, they're taking away parking, putting it in the middle of the street, creating these big bike lanes. Now, reading this article, only about 6% of people work downtown. So that means you've taken all this parking away from businesses and people who, patronize them. And now there's no place to park. It's harder to get down, harder to get around. Not only a fraction of the people are using it. Now, how many people are going to ride their bike to their office job in a 3-piece suit, or now take these more dangerous scooters around? which people get hurt on every day. I mean, this thing was built for kids, you know, with sturdy bodies used to skin knees, but folks like me, one fall and it could be over with. But it goes on. So, thinking about spending massive sums of money to increase the transit system here in San Diego, and they're arguing over the whole thing. Transportation experts have recommended bold steps for metropolitan regions. Now, I'll tell you what these bold steps are. They again have to do with reducing your liberty. We're supposed to cram as many people as we can into the smallest space we can. So what do? You know, raise the height standards and the congestion standards, if you will, and then build these and train stops and bus stops close together. And there's all kinds of problems there. First of all, you got to get people to live like that. And people seem to be getting more and more used to that, maybe. One of the most dense areas for jobs only has 16% of the jobs in the county. So not only is, you know, with the urban sprawl and the jobs being less packed into certain areas, in the big highways, everything is built to spread out. Now, it took 100 to 50 years to get to that point. Now you're talking about trying to turn that around with something people don't like. They like their liberty in their cars, even if it isn't their car when they use Uber or Lyft to get around. So here you are. Let's see what else would they say. Well, here's what they come back with. Increased density, including nixing parking requirements around transit stops, lift height limits, and congestion limits. Numerous things like that. In other words, they're creating laws that force you into this particular kind of housing, force you to use the transit. This is what actually happens. And they tell you right here, this is what the only way they see to make it work. We're going to force you to do these things. Well, isn't that what big government does? They come up with these plans to fix everything, and then they find out, nobody wants to do that, so now we're going to force you. And how do they do that? Ultimately, the government forces you with the point of a gun. They make the laws that say you got to do this, or you're fined or going to jail. That's how they deal with it. But we like our liberty. Yes, the rush hours are terrible. You stop and go traffic, in it many times. It's not necessarily stop and go, but a lot of times it's just very slow. But particularly if you can pick your time of the day, when to go and be on the freeway, sometimes it can be wide open, full speed, no problem. That is one thing, is alternate times to travel. So basically, politicians are figuring out ways to tax the heck out of you. In other words, also what they're going to do is if you're driving in a more congested area, they're going to charge you a congestion tax or something. Or a fuel tax or a mileage tax. They monitor your car and your miles and where you're going. And force you to live in a tighter environment. It's just what it comes down to. They're going to force you to do these things. Here's something. Attempt to design rail service that lures commuters off street and congested areas is a problem. Planned San Diego, they're talking about more trains, they're talking about subways, and that means digging holes in the ground. You talk about expense. But then again, if you're trying to lay rails in established areas, then you're going to have to buy the land and pay to demolish property. And, you know, we've spent decades getting to this point, and it's going to take decades to change it. And the people aren't going to be in a big hurry because people get on a bus now. And they want to go some distance. They'll spend hours in the bus getting somewhere that could take 15 minutes, at the most a half hour. So, you know, that's the experience that people have. So they're not eager to get back in the bus or the trolley and deal with that. And then every so many days you see an attack on a trolley by some crazy person. Or in the depots, stuff happens. So, anyway, San Diego is talking about $100 billion coming from their taxes through 2062. This is not something that's going to happen in 5 years. You're talking about 40 years. So there we are. And they want to end the sprawl issue. In other words, no more big, broad urban planning, but get you in the towers and the condensed stuff. So there you go. And I see a Democrat in the Assembly, Todd Gloria of San Diego, gives metropolitan planning organizations such as Sandag the ability to place tax proposals in jurisdictions. In other words, if there's impacted cities, they can go to the city to pass a tax for just that area, which makes it easier for them to do it than try to do the whole county. So there you are. They're thinking, how can we get more money? And I'm sure that these big planners and politicians are looking at this and fretting, how can we fix everything? Well, you probably can't fix everything, but God bless them for trying. Well, there you are. Ongoing struggles of the American city. And we do what we can. Hey, like and comment on my videos, subscribe to my channel, and get out there and just make it a great day.